What up, traders? What up, investors? Ken here from Dyslexic Investor, and hope you guys are having a fantastic weekend. We're going to be looking at 5, not 4, not 6 stocks that are going to be covering within the e-commerce space. This is everything from what market they're going after, what their demographic is, who they're serving, how big is the site, all these kind of different components, and especially looking at the charts, looking at maybe some options activity, all this kind of interesting stuff regarding these 5 companies. But with that being said, we can go ahead and start looking at some of their sites. Then we're going to be jumping into their charts again, then go into the options activity. So what are the 5 companies? So let's go ahead and just jump right into that. Of course, we have the Big C. We have a Shopify, which is the king as we know it right now. Etsy, kind of a great one as well. A little bit different from the other ones. Then the kind of the sleeper one that we talked about again is JMIA. This is a one that really serves and is very focused within the continent of Africa. You can kind of see everything from South Africa to Egypt. They're covering a lot of these various countries, again, which is somewhat underserved within, again, the e-commerce and basically transactional spaces in that region. Of course, then we have C Unlimited. This is going to be one that has been a rocket ship as a stock as well. And this is more the Southeast Asia conglomerate in the sense of serving that market in that area. But again, all these are traded publicly, and we're going to be looking at the charts here in a second. Let's go ahead and switch on over to the charts here. So we're going to go into the very first one. This is going to be JMIA, Juni. This one has been coming up quite a bit on the sense of the live stream. I forget the individual who was suggesting it to me, but this thing has been making a pretty nice base. I think when the initial individual came out and was asking questions, it was more around in this area. We talked about some potential support and resistance up here. It has been coming down here dramatically. Looking here around the 5 and 8 moving averages, starting to cross through the 21. Had a huge move again with that squeeze, pumping it higher. Has been a rocket ship here, holding that 5 and 8 moving averages, and then continuing to grind higher here. Full disclosure, there is a earnings coming out there, so you have to be very mindful on how that plays out. But this thing has been a rocket ship. Like this thing again was a newer IPO that came out. Kind of, I don't know if it was not really well taken. It looked like it had a huge markup. I just kind of fell off my radar. But with these IPOs, usually they have that huge kick up, and then they come kind of crashing down. And it's usually not until 4 or 5 quarters in, they start ramping up, getting out of all those weak hands, really just kind of disrupting everything. But now it's finally getting into the proper hands, the getting out of the analysts that might be covering it. Maybe it was dormant for a little bit, as you can see, because again, it fell pretty drastically. On the first couple weeks, it went up all the way to $50, and now we're literally been cutting more than half. It came down all the way to $2.15. That definitely took out a lot of folks. You can see a lot of volume on those particular times around those. And then it's really been a recovery story, aka because of the pandemic and a lot of people trying to create business and money for themselves, their families, and try to venture out, become an entrepreneur. This thing has really came to the uprising up to that. Then kind of came right back down, even though the quarter was fairly well received, I believe. But it still kind of had that really strong sell-off. And now we're seeing that run up to earnings, which we saw previously, but then earnings was somewhat of a disappointment. So be very mindful, some potential overhead resistance around the $20.34 for the upside. With this one, there's not really that much options activity on this one. This, again, very low floatish of this. There is a lot of options activity on the $20 strike price going out until next year. Even for the quarter that's coming up, there is quite a bit, again, that 20, and even for the little bit out to the 26. But there's nothing really significantly popping off the chart there. Next one we're going to be looking at is the Etsy. Etsy is, again, the company that a lot of people have known, love, and so forth there. Looking at this one has been somewhat beaten up as well, kind of coming down to that 34 AMA, which we like to see for some initial support on the trend continue to go up. This one has earnings coming out this week, next week. What's the date? Come on, the 28th. Looking for that potentially to see how that happens. I think this does trade weeklies. It does. So it's looking for basically a move of nearly $17 within that range. That's going to be a pretty steep movement. So initially can come down to that 122 to 120 level, which is some previously support before around that 50% special move here. So initial 50% retracement there. Again, we're still seeing the 5 and 8 above the 21 EMA and the 34. So the moving average is still somewhat nicely stacked, but we did hit that wall of resistance here at $151 and not really seeing in a way to break out. The parabolic SCR dots are above us currently. So we're kind of in like a you have to prove it to me kind of mode, and seeing this potentially to hold here around 133 to 132. If it does start breaking, we're going to be looking for some support coming in around 126. Again, that's going to be where the 50 SMA falls in there. Again, be well aware of not buying straight calls, especially with earnings coming out in the next couple days. On the weekly side, this thing looks like a monster, of course, because it has been taken off due to, again, the pandemic. So that's why there's a lot of people moving money into these very high growth stocks, and especially with the e-commerce stuff and allowing people to basically create a business on a laptop anywhere, any place at any time. And seeing that really strong growth coming in, and seeing on which one of these companies and stocks could survive from that. Again, not all stocks are created equal, so be very mindful of that. Next one is going to be C Unlimited, and this one has been pretty much an upward projection as well. Really seeing that large movement again. This thing was trading well below $27 last year, and now it's at $176. This thing has been an enormous rocket ship. Just continue to grind. You can really see the trend here, holding that 21 to 34 EMA and just continue to grind up here. We're hitting the 21 34 here a little bit, again, with the question mark of earnings coming out sometime in November 10th. This is going to be a one to watch as well. This is the one that has been very difficult to get in. And the only time to really get into is when it kind of breaks in between the 21 and 34 EMAs here. But this one has had a lot of strength. This thing has really been moving to the upside again with the overall growth in that fact. That being said, be very mindful again that not all stocks are created equal. We are seeing that overall resistance here around that 175, but this thing, if it can hold above the 34, even down to the 50-day, if we do get some of a air quote correction in the market, we can definitely see some potentially base building here. We'd like to see this potentially trade sideways for a little bit, maybe set up a squeeze like we saw previously into earnings runs, where it kind of came down, a couple got washed around here a little bit between that, again, that 21 to 34 EMA, maybe see that run into earnings for a quick trade there. Next one, of course, is the king of them all, is Shop, and of course, this one has literally gone from a couple $100 to $1,000 in this time frame this year. For this one, it's definitely going to be one to watch. This is the one that I'm honestly the largest fan of because I understand the business a little bit more. I never used any of these sites, so I'm not going to be grading this on the overall usage or user perspective of this. I'm going to be looking at strictly the charts. So this one, again, has really been building in this territory here. So we're going to draw these little purgatory boxes that we call here. It's kind of just been trading in this range, ping pong around kangaroo market, whatever you want to call it. It just hasn't really been able to do much, even though the market has been kind of swashbuckled around. We are seeing that movement kind of represented here, but has not really been able to break out since the beginning of September, which again was when we had that strong sell-off in a lot of the tech-heavy stocks, coming down well past some very key moving averages and looking for some initial support. Kind of made a V-shaped recovery, but now it's kind of giving some of it back. Initially looking for it to hold around that 988 level, which you can see where I have my current alert at here. This is definitely going to be looking for some support going on here, basically kind of coming into that 50-day here for some initial support around that $1,000 price target. Looking to kind of trade sideways. This one as well has earnings coming out on the 29th. This is before the market, so you have to put in your trades on the 28th. Again, I'm not going to be doing YOLO calls. I'm sure someone on Wall Street Bets is going to be doing it for me, and I can criticize and or give them a high five for that matter of the fact to see how they play out there. But this is, again, one that's kind of been really beaten up. I think that this one has an opportunity for the growth as well, to potentially buy some shares or sell some premium in there. Last but not least, we got the Big C. The Big C is one that has a newer IPO as well. Just came out. This only had one public quarter as of right now, but this one is definitely one that's, I think, a little bit more inflated than the other ones, on the sense of what is some potential support and resistance lines. So this one has been very much beaten up, because again, love that a huge run up again, like we saw with C Unlimited, what we saw with Etsy, and we saw with Shop, and even with the Junie, we saw that huge run up. But this thing literally came out of the fence, or kind of came out of the gates, just ratcheting up. Went up all the way up to like $100, came all the way back down to 63, and then within a couple days, ratcheted all the way up to $162, and then came way back down to around that $80 level. It's kind of been bouncing around currently around that $90 to $100 level, which is again between some key fib levels here that we're currently looking at. This one also has earnings announcement coming out in not until the first week of November, so be very mindful of that. Looking for some potential activity going on here. This one, again, a lot of these didn't have a lot of options activity going forth, because a lot of these, besides Shop and Etsy, are very low floats and trading in that sense. Etsy had a lot of options activity, but some of these might just be better options just to buy stock. If you're going to be investing at a little bit longer term, buying longer call options are going to be a little bit difficult due to the very high implied volatility, and some people are not able to withstand some of the pain, and especially with some pretty large swings in these markets, especially as you can see here with Big C. Could you imagine having the shares at $100 or 100 strike price, and then seeing it go to 150, then within a couple days go all the way back down to around the $80 range? Like, people are not able to withstand that swings. Again, I don't think I would be able to do that, to be quite honest. I would have been selling it up here as well. That being said, which one of these is the stock that you're most likely going to be looking into, potentially investing, trading, whatsoever? Please let me know in the comments down below. This is definitely an interesting time to be investing in these very big e-commerce stuff. I know I didn't talk about Amazon. That's one of the largest ones, but Amazon is in its own little planet and its own little gravitational pull, and I'm not going to be diving into that on this video here. But these are just the, I want to call it smaller, but the companies that have the high growth in it. Because again, Big C can easily double, even with SE, and Etsy could double easily. Amazon's going to be very hard to double. Again, it's already a $4,000 stock. It's got a very, very large high market cap, and these ones are a little bit substantially lower, so they have a higher probability of the growth potential of getting a 2, 3, even 5x in the next couple of years. So that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace!